This is the best go anywhere, do anything watch I've reviewed so far. This week I have the Tudor Prince Date-Day in for review, and thank you to Cool Vintage Watches for letting me borrow it. This is a Tudor Date-Day in a 36mm stainless steel case, which is perfect for both casual and formal scenarios. If you're new here, my name is Keanu and I like to document my life. If you like watch reviews, consider hitting that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Starting with the history, the Tudor Date-Day reference 76200 ran in production starting from the early 1990s. This model had a short run in the Asian market, and they are now discontinued. And due to this, some of the variations of this watch are quite rare. The Tudor Date-Day takes inspiration from the Rolex Date-8, which was the first watch to fully display the day on the dial. The closest thing that Tudor has in its modern lineup would probably be the Tudor Royale, but it's not a very popular model at all. Let's go over some specifications. This watch is a 36mm watch with a lug-to-lug of 44mm. For the older models, there was a 38mm option, but a majority of these came in 36mm. 36mm had a 20mm lug width, which was super versatile for strap options. Without the magnifier, this watch measures at about 10mm thin. Unlike the Rolex Date-8, these ones came in stainless steel, and they also had some plating gold, but never solid gold. It uses an automatic movement with both the day and the date complication, and with the screw-down crown and case back, it has 100 meters water resistance. The 36mm is super comfortable, and I think that it works really well on a wide variety of wrists. However, this one does wear a little bit smaller than other 36mm watches. I'd say that the newer Oysters and the newer Black Bays use a bigger 36mm. If you're used to the new ones being a little bit larger, just be aware that these might wear a little smaller. The dial is really pretty, and it has the both day and date function, which is super functionable. There's a nice balance of text, 2 lines on top and 2 lines on bottom, and it's super legible with just the stake hour markers. There's a shield logo on the crown, which matches the applied shield logo on the dial, and the applied indices give it this raised 3D effect, and it makes it feel very premium. Despite its relatively simple design, it looks super good, and it's super classic and versatile with any outfit. I'd argue that it's almost harder to make a simple watch look good because the details have to be just right to not look boring and simple like one of those fashion watches. This particular watch comes with the smooth bezel and the black dial, which I think is the most versatile option, but it also came in a variety of different colored dials, even linen dials, and different bezels as well. There was the fluted bezels, the engine turn bezels. There's a lot of different variety you can get with these watches. I've been covering a lot of black and white dials lately, and I typically prefer white dials because I like the contrast against my skin, but I actually think that the black dial suits this one more, especially if you're going to be wearing it with a strap. I think that black dial watches look great with straps, and I'll show some straps off later in the video. But first, let's talk a little bit about the movement. This uses a very solid ETA movement. This watch uses the ETA 2834-2 automatic movement. It has an extremely snappy day-date switch. I stayed up till 12 one day, and you can actually, I had it on my desk, and you could hear the click of the watch when it snapped over. It's very instant, it's very smooth, and I love it. It also has quick set on both the day and the date. Operating this movement is very smooth, and winding the crown is that crunchy ETA sound. It's a very, very solid watch. ETA is one of the most popular Swiss movements, and so they are known for their reliability, and they're also super affordable to service, as well as there's going to be a ton of parts available for them. A go anywhere, do anything watch has to come on a bracelet, and this one comes on a very solid 5-link bracelet. I think this watch might fall into neo-vintage territory. I mean, the links are screwed together, and so they're going to be very reliable. However, the clasp is still stamped, but it does have plenty of micro adjustments. This watch comes with drilled lugs, which makes for easy strap changes, and it looks great on a variety of straps. I have it on a green suede strap as well as a Omega leather strap. Here's it on a green suede strap that I bought on Amazon. It was real cheap, like 20 bucks, as well as a $200 Omega strap that's brown leather, and it just looks really good on both of them. When you take a black dial watch and you add 20mm lug width, you just get a strap monster, and this watch is truly that. The overall finishing of the bracelet is super amazing, and the clasp is actually brushed as well, so that way whenever you're using it, it doesn't get scratched up on the clasp as much. I just want to take some time to talk about this watch compared to the newer Black Bay models. So here I have the newer Black Bay model in 36mm and the older Date-Day model in 36mm. As you can see, the logo is a little different. The newer ones use a printed black logo, whereas the older ones have a more applied shiny logo similar to the Rolexes. Both have a different handset, so the older one uses the stick hands that Rolex uses, and the newer ones have differentiated themselves with the snowflake hands. While a lot of people think that the snowflake hands look quote-unquote ugly, I think that they look really cool and that they add some more character to the watch. Using the snowflake hands allows it to have way more lume than the older ones, and overall I think it's a positive change. The new ones have a way better clasp, so not only are they solid, but they have the T-fit micro adjust to them, which means you can quick adjust it without having to take any screws out or poke any holes, and it's a really functional feature, and it's definitely an improvement over the older ones. And then one more thing I mentioned was the newer ones, despite being 36 millimeters as well, were much chunkier or bigger than the older ones. I think this is due to the wider lugs, but honestly they both wear super comfortable on the wrist. This particular new one comes with diamonds on the dial, so it's closer to $5,000, but the new ones are still relatively affordable, around $3,000, and they're just an absolute value prop when it comes to what you're getting for your money. I'd almost argue that they are better values than the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, but that is a video for another time. Let's go over some pros and cons of this watch, and there are a bunch. So let's start with the pros. It is super comfortable for daily wear. It's a beautiful design that's perfectly classical, and it will fit everything. It'll look good in a suit, it'll look good in the flannel, it'll look good in the t-shirt. Especially with this black dial, this watch is the pinnacle of versatile design. Another pro is it's got some brand clout. It's a great brand. It's Tudor, you know, Tudor's becoming more popular, and Tudor has been known for amazing quality, similar quality to Rolex, and so yeah, that's another pro. Another pro is it's way more affordable to service than the Rolex counterparts, because this one uses the ETA movement. Even the newer Tudors use the Kinesi movements, which can kind of get more pricey to service, but with this one being an older model, you're definitely not going to be paying as much. Another thing I like about this model line as a whole is that it comes in a variety of dials. There are gem set dials, there are different texture dials with the linen dials, they have different bezels. I really like the engine turn bezels, those things are awesome. And of course you have different colors as well. I think the blue dial is pretty rare, and that one's really pretty. And then the last pro is this is a handsome watch. You know, it's got that pretty factor to it. I love collecting a variety of watches, but some of them are objectively ugly. I have a Casio F91W here. This is total nerd's watch. You know, it's kind of orange, but objectively this is not a pretty watch. You know, the type of person complimenting this watch is not the person who's going to compliment this watch, you know. So it does have that pretty factor, if you want to call it that. But with all these pros, it does come with some cons, and it's just depending on how you look at it. But the 36 millimeter might feel small for some people. I personally think it wears really comfortably and it fits my wrist perfectly, but I do have a 5.5 inch wrist. So if you have a wrist over 6.5 inches or so, I think that this watch might not work for you. Another con is I wish that they used the standard Jubilee bracelet over this 5-link bracelet. Don't get me wrong, this is really well built. The flat links are really nice, but I like the look of that classic Jubilee. The dial is super pretty, but it does lack lume. The lume plots on the dial are very slim, and combined with the dark dial, it's kind of hard to read in darker situations. It also has a cheaper clasp, so this is a stamped clasp, and it's going to lack the T-fit adjustment that the newer Black Bays have. And lastly, some people might think that because it's so similar to a Rolex Day-Date model, then it's going to have that cheap Rolex look. I personally didn't have any experience with that. I wore this watch for a week when I had it. I wore it to an art museum, and it was a lot of fun. I only had one person ask me if it was a Rolex, and I just said yes to avoid any confusion. But I really enjoyed wearing this, and I did not see it as a cheap Rolex at all. I'm really glad I got to spend some time with this watch. I think it is truly a value-packed monster. I mean, you can find these for under $2,000. The specifications and the build quality are just off the chart when it comes to Tudor. I think that every watch collector needs to have that safe, boring watch that they can go to, like their comfort watch, if you say. Especially for those situations when you have your whole watch box open and you can't decide which watch to wear. I mean, you need that safe, boring watch. My personal boring, safe watch is the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 34mm in blue. I think that watch is amazing. It gives me very similar vibes to this Tudor, and I like the Tudor more because it has the day-date function, and I constantly find myself filling out paperwork or looking at my calendar and trying to figure out what date it is. And so this watch would be really good for everyday wear. Obviously, I can't keep this watch because I kind of keep cycling through watches for YouTube videos, but would you ever wear this watch? Would you think it's too Rolex to you? I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. Right now, I'm trying to build up a whole playlist of watch review videos, and I'll leave that linked right here. Go check that out if you're interested and see what watches you haven't seen before, and I'll see you over there.